Paul Bäumer is still a schoolboy when the war begins, sitting in a cramped classroom while his teacher delivers fiery speeches about honor, duty, and the glory of dying for the fatherland. The words are intoxicating. Paul and his classmates are young, restless, and eager to belong to something larger than themselves. They imagine uniforms, marching bands, quick victories, and heroic returns. Swept up by patriotic pressure and the fear of seeming weak, they enlist together, believing the war will be an adventure that will make them men. Training shatters the illusion almost immediately. Under the command of Corporal Himmelstas, a former postman turned petty tyrant, the recruits are subjected to relentless drills, humiliations, and punishments. Himmelstas delights in power, enforcing discipline with cruelty rather than purpose. The boys learn to march, salute, clean rifles, and obey orders without question. Paul begins to sense that something is wrong, that the men who speak most loudly about honor often understand nothing about the cost of war. Still, there is camaraderie among the recruits. They suffer together, joke together, and cling to each other as their last source of comfort. One of them, Franz Müller, dreams constantly of what he will do after the war, especially about returning to his old life and wearing his boots again. Another, Albert Kropp, is sharp-minded and skeptical, already questioning the logic of the conflict. Jaden is thin, always hungry, and angry at authority. And then there is Stanislaus Kaczynski, known as Kat, an older soldier they meet after training. Kat is not like the others. He is practical, calm, and impossibly skilled at surviving. He can find food where there should be none, sense danger before it arrives, and understand the front line in a way officers never will. To Paul, Kat becomes a guide and a quiet anchor in the chaos. The first journey to the front is filled with nervous excitement. The sound of distant artillery rolls. The days blur together as Paul settles into the rhythm of the front. Time is no longer measured in weeks or months but in bombardments, attacks, and brief lulls that feel like stolen breaths. Survival becomes instinctive. He learns to read the sounds of the battlefield, to tell by the whistle of a shell whether it will land nearby or pass overhead. Fear never disappears, but it becomes familiar, like a constant pressure inside his chest. One night, the bombardment intensifies beyond anything they have known. The earth seems to tear itself apart. Shells rain down endlessly, collapsing dugouts and burying men alive. Paul and the others are pressed against the trench walls, shaking, as explosions throw dirt and body parts into the air. Horses scream somewhere nearby, a sound so full of terror it cuts deeper than the blasts themselves. When the shelling finally stops, silence feels unreal, almost louder than the noise before it. The next morning reveals the cost. The battlefield is a wasteland of craters, twisted metal, and broken bodies. The wounded cry out from the mud, some begging to be shot because the pain is unbearable. Paul helps where he can, but there are too many. He learns the cruel arithmetic of war: you cannot save everyone, and trying to do so may kill you. The knowledge hardens him in ways he does not fully understand. During an attack, Paul is separated from his unit and dives into a shell hole for cover. Moments later, an enemy soldier jumps in with him. Instinct takes over. In a blind panic, Paul stabs the man repeatedly. The soldier collapses, mortally wounded but not dead. Trapped together, Paul is forced to watch him die slowly over hours. The man gasps for breath, his eyes filled with pain and confusion. Paul searches his pockets, hoping for something to identify him as a monster, but instead finds letters and photographs of a wife and child. The realization breaks something inside Paul. This man is not a faceless enemy. He is a printer, a husband. The war grinds on with no clear direction, only a steady demand for more lives. Paul feels the weight of it in his body and mind. His reactions are slower now, not from weakness but from exhaustion that sleep never cures. The front has changed him so deeply that he can no longer imagine a future beyond it. Tomorrow is all that exists, and even that feels uncertain. One day, Paul and Kat are sent behind the lines to lay telephone wire. For a few hours, they are away from the immediate violence of the trenches. The countryside is scarred but quieter, dotted with ruined farmhouses and abandoned fields. Kat manages to find food again, stealing a goose from a nearby village. That night, hidden in a barn, they roast it slowly and eat like kings. For a brief time, they laugh and talk almost like ordinary men. Paul treasures these moments more than anything else. They remind him that life once had warmth and comfort, even if it now feels like a distant dream. The illusion does not last. On the way back, they hear cries from a nearby village that is being shelled. Paul and Kat take shelter in a cellar along with several civilians. Among them is a young French woman and a small child. The woman's fear is quiet and restrained, which makes it more painful to witness. Paul feels a strange tenderness toward her, a sense of connection that goes beyond language or nationality. In her presence, the idea of the enemy feels absurd. She is not a symbol or a threat, just another human trapped by forces beyond her control. When the shelling stops, Paul and Kat leave without words. Paul carries the memory with him, a reminder of the lives destroyed far from the battlefield headlines. It deepens his conviction that the war is an immense lie, sustained by people who will never crouch in a cellar waiting to die. Back at the front, conditions worsen. Supplies are scarce, and the men are constantly sent into hopeless attacks. New recruits arrive with clean faces and frightened eyes, and Paul's. The final weeks of the war arrive quietly, almost without notice. The front is strangely calm at times, broken by sudden bursts of violence that feel pointless even by the war's own standards. Rumors spread through the trenches that peace may be coming soon. An armistice is whispered about, something unimaginable after years of endless fighting. For Paul, the rumors feel distant and unreal, like stories from another world. Hope is dangerous. He has learned not to trust it. Paul moves through his days on autopilot. With Kat gone and most of his original friends dead, there is nothing left to anchor him emotionally. The boots he wears now have belonged to several dead men before him. They fit well, but to Paul they feel heavy, as if they carry the weight of every life lost. Each morning he wakes, checks his gear, and waits. Waiting has become the hardest part of all. New soldiers continue to arrive, boys with soft faces and nervous hands. Paul watches them with a detached sadness. He tries to give them advice, warning them about keeping low, about listening for shells, about fear being normal. But he knows words cannot prepare them. The war will teach them quickly, or kill them just as fast. He feels older than all of them, even those who are technically his age. War has aged him beyond numbers. The landscape around the front is exhausted, just like the men. Trees stand shattered and blackened, their branches ripped away. Fields are nothing but mud and craters filled with stagnant water. There is no sense of seasons anymore, only cold, damp, and decay. Nature itself seems wounded, struggling to exist in the shadow of human destruction. One day, Paul is sent out on a routine patrol. The air is still, the sky pale and calm, almost peaceful. There is no immediate sound of gunfire, only distant artillery far away. Moments like this feel eerie. Silence at the front is never comforting. It feels like the world holding its breath. As Paul moves cautiously through the ruined